Okay, colleagues, before you will start, you will think about your question. I will start with final part of our meeting. It's a pest and disease control, and of course, Seabuckthorn fly. It's a great disaster, not only in Russia in previous time, but at the moment all around the Europe. And of course, many approaches, many ideas and approaches have been proposed. But as I see, not really reliable methods have been applied, have been proposed. And I think, what do you think about early ripening varieties? Maybe it's the only way to control Seabuckthorn fly. According to figures, I see that Seabuckthorn fly flies mostly in the beginning of July. But we have varieties which already ripen in this period. For instance, in our collection, we have Ethna variety which ripen really in the beginning, in the middle of July. It means it can pass away from Seabuckthorn fly. What do you think about this opportunity? Who can comment this?
Thorsten like to answer.
Yes, perhaps some words about the Seabuckthorn fly in Germany. We have here a trial with the Siberian varieties of Seabuckthorn, and we see, of course, also the Seabuckthorn fly on these varieties. But because the ripening time is much earlier, it's not the problem. The larvae are very small, and we have not so big problems. Of course, it's an infection, but we can harvest with the larvae, and the product is not so bad. But on the other hand, we have also in the last years here developed some methods against the Seabuckthorn fly. For example, with soil coverage or with tillage of soil, and also with fungi and with nematodes in the soil. And the idea is that we developed systems against the fly in the soil. If the fly comes, the pupae we cannot destroy in the soil. But when the fly comes out from the soil, then it's a good time to work against it. And this is an idea, and we hope that we can develop some methods against the Seabuckthorn fly on the beginning on the season. This is our idea.
Okay, sounds interesting.
Yes, it sounds interesting. And colleagues, I would like, but I have to inform you that at the moment in Russia, we do not carry out any investigation on Seabuckthorn fly because the main specialist, Doctor of Science, Shamanskaya, untimely passed away from us this year. That is why we rely only on European experience and only on Europe. So that is a short information because such bad situation in Russia.
Yeah, good afternoon. I had a common question to Dr. Holtz, but because she's not there, so maybe for all of us a common issue. The question is that should we use chemical pesticides at all? Maybe that's a cruel question, but if you think about the bees and other environmental factors, it is a common discussion at the moment everywhere. So if we have to, or if we should use chemicals against the fly, which ones do you think we can really think about and which we have to forget?
Yes, Heikki, I agree with your question because I think we have here great discrepancy between the economic situation of the growers who mostly in Germany grow under organic growing conditions without use of pesticides and other chemicals. We have some plantation with loss of more than 50% of the harvest, and we have other who did not have this problem. I can, or you see by yourself, Ms. Holz can hear us, and she wrote, if you have better solution, it would be to be preferred. I agree with this, yes, because I think the great advantage of Seebuckthorn in marketing, in my opinion, is that it is pure and ecologically grown plant, and the berries in marketing live from this good image what they have to be organic, to be free of pesticides and so on. And if we lose this quality parameter, then I think this niche product is burned. I'm not a friend of the idea to use pesticides as general method to solve this problem. Maybe in some extreme situation it may be helpful, but not as general.
Good afternoon. There are some chemical pesticides which are very effective, and they degrade after some time, and making them harmless. So they can be identified for use in the Seebuckthorn.
Yes, Virendra, the problem, in my opinion, is that we do not have pesticides that are selective, acting against only one organism. Yes, most of the pesticides are acting against many insects, also bees and bumblebees and so on. And this is, in my opinion, the great problem. As if we had the possibility only to influence Seebuckthorn fly, then it would be a totally different question, in my opinion. But the pesticides that actually are in use, they mostly are bright, acting against insects of all kinds. And this cannot be our aim, to kill all insects in this plantation, yes, as I already explained, in my opinion.
Yeah, all we know at the moment, the discussion about the neonicotinoids, for example, and all we know, the history of DDT, etc. So I don't say that we shouldn't do anything, but I just say that usually when we start using something new, we get in trouble. So let's think about carefully. I don't have the knowledge what we should do. That's why I opened this discussion.
If I may intervene, from our experience, I mean, it's correct that, when whatever you put into the orchard, then it affects not only the target, but also the non-target. Okay, so that's normally, and during the registration process, always this is also taken into consideration. Now, I saw with very high interest the presentations, the previous one, because the colleague was showing, about the spinosad. So we also tested and about the other the same chemicals. Okay, in our case in Poland, we don't have neither the two of them are registered for use in Seebuckthorn. So even if we want to use, I mean, we use them as for trials. Okay, but so it could be that we can ask for a temporary authorization, which is possible, according to Article 53, of the EU Regulation 1107. Now, the question, when I was saying at the end, is that actually what we think is what ECO is suggesting. I mean, it's an approach that should take the whole biology and also all the other, let's say, practices that can really affect the, let's say, the population of the fly. Now, we are trying to actually, we presented a proposal. Also, we are waiting for the evaluation to test such so-called agroecological approach. So, acting on the way we are managing the whole plantation. So, with the different kinds of soil management, which can be done also with some plants that are affecting both pests and beneficials above ground. It could be also for the below ground. I read about, I mean, or heard, there is here, Kristen wrote about the Boveria bassiana on the ground. We didn't have at all results with that. Really, I don't know why. You know, maybe it's also a question of the soil, because you know, if you have very rich organic soils, maybe the bassiana is growing on it, and then it can also affect, or vice versa. But we have you know, quite sandy soils in our cases. So I think also for the different kinds of products that can use, the goal should be always to reduce the amount or total, let's say, of synthetic, possibly to use so-called biological control, which maybe it's less impacting on the biodiversity, generally speaking, or the quality of the environment. I think that for the growers, you cannot tell him, okay, wait for the God, you know, decision whether you know it will be a good season or not. I mean,
One of the important aspects in occurrence of disease and pest is the climate change. Can we have collect information how the climate change is affecting in the rapid spread of disease and pest, especially what we observed in Germany?
You are asking to me about climate change?
Yes,
One
of course,
further.
to everybody. In my view, that information should be collected on climate change and how it is affecting in multiplication of disease and pest, and what we can have a mitigation plan for that to combat climate change.
Maybe I can add on top of Dr. Singh's question, because it's related. So if somebody has answer, can answer all these questions together. So some people already mentioned that early ripening varieties can, you know, bypass the time of this fly problem. So are there any information about the possible link between early ripening and the winter hardness? So like the cold resistance of seed buckthorn varieties, whether this early ripening or late ripening has anything to do with their cold resistance during winter. So this is of course related to the question also, Dr. Singh. So I believe Heikki has also something to add.
Well, I don't have any knowledge about what you asked, but one further like comment is that, as we know, sea buckthorn is not a target plant of bees and bumblebees, which is a kind of, let's say, advantage. But this doesn't mean that there are no other useful or insects which we should not kill by poisoning flies. And this is a real discrepancy, and that's why we really need a thorough discussion about whether we should use and what. Again, I don't have an answer. But as Baru referred, evidently, we have now the really northernmost plantations of sea buckthorn in the whole world, because they are beyond the 70th latitude, far north, northern Finland, and we try which way these plants behave there and how they are related to these biotic problems, in addition to weather conditions.
Dear colleagues, I would like to share you a bit about Latvia. Actually, in Latvia we have a question to be or not to be. If we don't use any chemicals, we cannot grow sea buckthorn in Latvia at all. We should forget it. Just organically, it's not possible right now. I don't know what will be in future, but the situation is extremely critical here, and that's why I agree with you, Heikki, that we should find organic way to control the fly. But the question is, where is it? And our growers cannot wait. They just starting to destroy their plantation. That is a fact in Latvia. And as I missed my presentations, again, sorry for that, I would like to give a floor for Edita Jakobsson. She is a specialist in the Research Institute of the Horticulture of Latvia. Edita, do you hear us? Edita? No, we cannot hear her.
I'm here. Wait a
Okay.
second. Wait a second. Am I here?
Please, Edita, say some words about the
hello.
situation of sea buckthorn fly in Latvia, just to get the insight for all participants. Thank you.
Well, the situation in the last 2 years, we have observed more closely 3 orchards in the northeastern part of Latvia, where sea buckthorn fly is of the utmost importance. And on year 2020, we had the percentage of healthy fruit was like around 50% at best. So 50% of the fruit were damaged. That means we can't really harvest by cutting the branches and freezing them, because there's just so much damaged fruit that it clogs up the sorting lines and it doesn't work. We also ran a trial on 2 spinosad products, Tracer, which is pretty much similar to Spintor and Dutton mentioned today, and we also, to minimize the environmental impact, tried to use Naturalite fruit fly bait by Corteva that also contains spinosad, but in a much lower concentration, like hundreds of times lower, but it's mixed in a nutritious medium that is supposed to be really attractive to fruit flies, and we tried spraying that in various doses as well. Sadly, we didn't get much results. I suppose Tracer didn't work after the Dr. Holt's presentation. We suppose we just drew the conclusion. We suppose we did the sprays too early. That's a possibility. But even if the first spray was too early, the second spray was right at the peak of the flight, and we still got near no efficacy. And the Naturalite fruit fly bait, the nutritious mixture of spinosad in a broth, that did slightly better in one of the orchards, but still not great. We still can't get past that 70-80% whole fruit mark. What was interesting, we really hoped to fine-tune the procedure on 2021 this summer, but we got no flies. We got no flies in this particular area because we are not sure why, but we suppose it was a winter effect because soil temperatures remained around zero, freezing for a very long time. And we suppose that damaged the fly pupae. But basically, we're not sure if spinosad works in our case. Maybe we really pulled the trigger too fast, and we should have waited till the absolute peak of flight before spraying. But we're not sure about how feasible it is. And I mean, in my personal opinion, spinosad is not something that should be used in biological agriculture if we want to keep the ethos of the biological agriculture alive. But that's more of a philosophical question. The reality is that we can't grow sea buckthorn without insecticides in some form. Well, on 2019, we ran another field trial, and Mospilan did with also conventional insecticides, and Mospilan did all right for integrated production. And as we know, Mospilan or acetamiprid actually has even fewer side effects on environment than spinosad, at least as far as I've read. We haven't done any trials ourselves. And so I'm not entirely sure biological label will be feasible for Latvian production. Any questions? I'm sorry, I can't see the screen from my current position, so I can't see if there are questions. Okay, let's see.
I would ask if I can, just speaking, because you said that this year you didn't have the flights actually, no? So I mean,
Yes,
last season.
in these areas we didn't, in the northeastern region.
And you related to kind of climatic.
Yeah, the soil
factor.
temperatures.
So that was higher or lower than usual?
It stayed right around zero for several months. It means it's thawing, it's freezing again. It's thawing, it's freezing again. It means the pupa has to change its metabolism from the frozen situation to the above zero temperature all the time. I don't think it can switch.
And then went back to frozen.
Yeah,
situation.
I don't think it's capable of switching that fast.
Okay.
But I mean, that's just from basic insect biology. That happens with a lot of insects.
Yes, maybe I can add two ideas that has been presented by Ms. Szamanska when we met in Turku. Yes, so one question is, I think if we are thinking about usage of agrochemicals, we need a monitoring system to decide whether it's necessary or not necessary to use. Yes, the great problem is if you open one door and say it's allowed to use this and this, then usually they do in the normal day work each year and use the pesticides without monitoring before usage. This is one big problem. And the second question is, we know from old records that sea buckthorn fly in some years is a very high population and following years is lower. So it seems to be something, this is not only depending on climate, on temperatures, but may also be inside the population of the fly. Yes, Ms. Holz wrote, we know less about biology of the fly. Yes. And another question is, of course, it's often discussed that the great plantation are the risky situation for the sea buckthorn fly. But if you look on the situation in northeast of Germany, there are plantations that has been set up in the 70s, and they had until 2010 no great problems with sea buckthorn fly. On the other hand, we know fly has been reported already in the 50s in the Netherlands. So what changed? Not the size of the orchards. This is clearly to be seen. I think maybe other influencing factors. Andres?
Thomas, may everybody can clarify for me how the fly finds the berry? Is it a question of the aroma, a question of tactile surfaces, is a question of the color? How the fly finds the berry?
I think Thorsten dealt with this question already, as I remember, yes. And the answer was not so clear.
No, it's not so clear in this moment. We measured in this year the skin of the berries, and maybe that it's not possible to go through the skin of the berries on some periods if the fruits are very small. And another is the size of the berries. If we see very small berries, they go not on, and the color, of course, may be one thing, but we have in this time not the solution. What one factor is? I think it's there are more factors.
Yeah, because I remember Ulrike Holz reported that she found eggs of the fly on green berries. So that's why I'm thinking about how we can catch the fly using their special look for berries.
Yes, and Professor Lürong then told me that also Melanocarpa is infected by sea buckthorn fly, and the berries of Melanocarpa are green and not orange. So the color seems not to be the only answer on this question, yes? And in chat you read size is important, Ulrike Holz wrote, and also we do not really know.
You know, I think because we did also this, you know, kind of also a search. We wanted to check different kind of colors, but I think that as for the others, the Tetriphidae, you know, so you have the color is one, then you have the smell is the second, then you have maybe some volatiles that are coming from the plant, because you know it's normally only one larvae per fruit. So if the fruit is already, let's say, taken, then it is not. So even if you have a high population, we tried for example, in our case also, we wanted to see whether we could, let's say, make some kind of traps before the fruits were a little bit yellowish, but it didn't work, you know. So it's I think it's a complex clue that the flight is taking. Okay, so it's not only one or two, maybe more.
Can I again ask more questions? I saw from Dr. Ho's presentation, there is clearly difference among those varieties studied. The percentage of infected berry is they are clearly different among different cultivars, but of course there are some explanations related to the the ripening and fruit development stages and steps. They differ. Are there, I wonder, is that the only kind of explanation? Are there some other things among the different varieties, and that makes the difference? So that's like a question one. And then the second one is, I mean that related to the composition. Are there some compositional difference between these different varieties that might make the difference, also contribute to the difference in the infection rate? And then talking about the skin, I think those German varieties, they usually have quite thick skin compared to many of those other sea buckthorn varieties. So I don't know whether the skin strength make any difference or. Sorry about these additional questions.
No, this question about the thickness of the skin has already been here discussed, I remember, but I do not know exactly. As I remember, the result was that in particular, thicker skin make it more difficult for the fly to put eggs inside the berry. Yes, and I think also acidity plays a role. Yes, because. But this is a special situation with the German varieties that have high acidity. But we know from our experiments that it seems to be that over the more than 30 or 40 years of use of this old variety, not variety brands, yes, Hago, and so on, the acidity lowered with the time. So I'm not sure, maybe the composition changed over time because stability of the brands or the sorts is not so good as we expected. May also be influencing factor. But I know from producer that they tell in the beginning, let's say 2000, 2002, they had 30 grams per liter of acid, and now they are facing 25, 26 grams of acid. And of course, acidity play a role.
But of course, climate change will contribute to those compositional change, the sugar.
Yes, sunshine hours and rainfall has been changing over this time, of course, yes.
Now, at the moment, we have in Finland more than 1,000 kilometer long clean from Turku to northern Finland. And there are, let's say, at least 4 steps with exactly the same varieties. And over years, we will see how this possibly has an effect on the fly. We don't know yet, because we are happy to say that we don't have a real problem yet in even southern Finland. Some places we do, but over years we will see whether this distance towards north has an effect or not. We don't know yet.
Okay. Would be interesting to know. Andre, what do you think? Should we have some summary by Axel?
Yes, I think that we should give a word to Axel to summarize our today's meeting and to hear some conclusions.
Yeah, thank you very much, dear colleagues, dear friends. As I calculated right, we had today more than 50 participants. I have an echo. Do you hear an echo of me? No.
Here we have got audio connection,
Okay.
No problem.
Okay. So these 50 participants shows us amazing importance of the topics of pests and diseases. And as most of you know, pests and diseases are not really my favorite subject of interest. I like to work with these beautiful berries and leaves produced by our multi-purpose wonder plant, like Virender Singh calls this plant on the title of his books. But actually we have to deal with a combination of different stress factors maybe we had not in mind 50 years ago. So now obviously change of our climate in combination with intensive production and harvesting procedures and the erection of bigger areas of Seebuxom plantation based on some regionally adapted varieties. These produce maybe much heavier stress on Seabuxom plant, and it creates attractive biotopes for pests and diseases. And today we have heard really interesting presentations. I would like to express my special thanks to all presenters. And we have seen 3 presentations dealing with Seabuxom fly, also known as a beautiful Aragoletes batavia, but because for me it is a beautiful fly, but damaged a lot of Seabuxom berries. Ulrike Holz presented us monitoring data of different areas in Brandenburg, a province of Germany, and different opportunities for treatment against the fly, especially under consideration of the hatching time. Professor Ligio from Poland has given us a report about the situation there. Sure, in Poland we have not the total size of plantations like in Baltic countries or in Germany, but we have seen more or less the same challenges with different groups of insects, especially the fly, and also with pathogens for like fungi and bacteria. Many thanks to Professor Bokshia for his, for me, partly scaring results about wilt caused by Fusarium fungi. He reported a mortality of over 60%, especially for Russian varieties, independent on the location and in China. So he has reported it for different provinces like Gansu, Shanghai, etc. For me, very interesting that the local subspecies sinensis has a higher resistance, and maybe in the future crossing with Russian varieties will give the Chinese farmers a chance to produce very palatable and nice berries. So Sergei Olishenko has presented nothing about pests and diseases. So I would say maybe not the only, but yeah, maybe the only positive presentation today. He has presented for me very interesting results about agricultural research in the region of Isokul. He has spoken about high density plantations, and nobody, for me, it was the first time that we have heard such plantation methods. We know this radical cutting from our Romanian friends, but I don't know this radical cutting from any other areas on the world. And for me, very interesting, the high productivity per hectare. And let's see how it will happen over 10, 15 years use of these plantations. Konstantinos has shared his result about the amazing agricultural plantations of Russian varieties in Greece. Interesting was to hear that around about 30% of the plants during the first 5 years were lost by verticillium, and then they started to select varieties depend on soil conditions, and they use special methods against verticillium, and they could reduce the loss on 10%. It would be very interesting, and I would invite you, Konstantinos, to speak about in the next meeting more in detail about this special idea, how you reduce verticillium. And last but not least, as you know, in Germany, and especially in the northeastern region, we have the problem with the death of Seabuxom areas, not only in plantations. We found this death also in wild populations there. And Daniela Cooks has spoken about a project with aim to find causes of this disease and the development of cultivation methods to improve the health of the plants, to maybe protect by themselves against pests and diseases. So if we look on the last 10, 15 years, there are invested millions of euro in Europe, mainly in plantation and harvesting technology. Sure, partly financed by all of us as taxpayers, but finally the farmers took the risk. And our last discussion shows that the pressure of our farmers, especially in the question of sea buckthorn fly, is very high. I would like to give the pressure back to all scientists working with pests and diseases and to all authorities who finance such scientific work. And I hope that we can have a kind of, let's say, concerted action to find solutions in a very, very short time frame for our farmers and also for the processors. They are waiting for the berries. In the board of these organizers, we have discussed last week that we would like to continue the workshops next year, if you agree. And I would ask you if you have any questions we should discuss, any ideas, or if you have any results you would like to present, don't hesitate to write us. We will collect it. We will prepare a new series of workshops for next year's, because we think we cannot meet face to face and drink coffee together. So finally, I would raise a sea buckthorn schnapps on all of you and would like to thank you for your participation.
You were well prepared, Axel.
50% from Peter Karate. I forgot it.
Okay.
This is a little bit strong. Yeah, but anyway, on your health. Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Axel.
We have here,
Thank you.
we have here sea buckthorn liquor, which is one of the best in the world, produced by the department of Yang Baru years ago.
Heike, that's my personal bottle donated to you.
I'll never open it.
Oh, this is a great mistake, Heike. I think disinfection is a very important question, actually, and if you can combine disinfection with some very tasty things from sea buckthorn, I think it's a perfect solution for any disease. You only need to believe in it.
Yes, we do. Thank you very much, all of you.
Axel, to comment to your request, yes, I think we should continue our series of meetings, and I also agree with your opinion. I guess that it will not be happen that we meet personally in May next year. Actually, I do not see that the situation changes generally, especially I know from our Chinese colleagues that for them it would be very difficult in this actual situation. For traveling, maybe inside European community, a little bit different situation, but in general, I expect that we need to meet here on the screen. And I'm very happy and also like to thank to everybody who today was here. Sylvia counted, we have had about 55 participants in total, so more than last time. And for me, it was very interesting to hear everything here today. Thank you to everybody. Andres, it was yours.
Thank you, Thomas. I agree with your opinions, friends, and the same as Thomas. I cannot see. I don't see the pandemic will go away so soon, and I don't think we will be able to meet and drink a glass of schnapps or coffee together, unfortunately. So let's keep in touch within this frame of meetings, and I propose just to continue it. And then, as Thomas said, we are waiting from you for your proposals and for the topics you would like to discuss. And again, thank you all for participating and for your active discussions. Sorry again for disaster about my presentation, but I promise you, you will see it in the homepage together, the PowerPoint also in the textual part. Thank you all for coming, and maybe Yuri, you have some words to say.
Colleagues, well, friends, I think it's more than enough for today. I join to all greetings and join to all thanks. I think we've done a great job altogether, and looking to meet you again in next season of EuroWorkS on air. Kambe and bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you, Yuri. Bye-bye. And everybody have a look on our site. We will publish everything what has been sent to us, to the presenters. I already wrote, please send the PowerPoints or PDFs. And the video will also be available. And then I agree with Yuri and propose that we